Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Round 4 of Season 1, driving the Group 3 cars at Interlagos. I was really looking forward to this combination. The practice went really well. I had a practice session which I might upload with TRL Lightning, which I talked about, that I did really well in, and I was producing really good consistent lap times. But in qualifying on my main lap I got hit into turn 1, which knocked me out of rhythm, and then I just didn't put a good lap together again in qualifying. The weird thing with the force feedback was there were some strange things with the force feedback for this race where the steering wheel felt really slow and sluggish, but I managed to get a 131.9 in, which was really poor. I should have been down to a 31.4 to 5. That's what I was hitting in all the practice sessions. It was when I was racing TRR Lightning, that's what I was hitting in the qualifying, and really disappointed with the qualifying. It put me down in 10th position, which is not great. It's not where you want to be starting in these races, but I've got to start just I think I've just got to really start hooking these qualifyings up a bit more. It was a bit unfortunate that I got hit going into turn 1 on my main lap on my fresh set of tyres. I just put new tyres on, went into turn 1 and got hit on the rear, and I just totally wasted that lap. And then on my final run, which was my fastest lap, I braked too late trying to overdrive into turn 1. Managed to crawl back the lap. I was way behind. I lost about 3 or 4 attempts in the first sector, but somehow managed to get the lap back to a 31.9. I really hooked up the last part of the lap. It was just the first corner which I totally messed up, which was unfortunate. So I would have been around the 31.5 to 6, but you know, this is the point of these races, and this is why you've got to hook these laps up, and this is why it's so important to get this qualifying done. One thing I do wish they would do, because I've heard a lot of people talk about it, is doing qualifying solo where you get 2 laps to do it, similar to iRacing. A lot of the top runners have been saying it because of slipstream on certain tracks. I did notice that. I think TRL Lightning and one of his teammates did it on one of the Group 4 races. They managed to just get such a massive slipstream off each other, which is all fair play to them. You know, this is what it's about, but I think to make it a bit fairer, they should do it solo. Anyway, starting the race, you can see there, obviously starting P10, they got the Porsche in front of me. I braked fairly early because I didn't want to dive into there. Kept it on the inside, and the Ferrari on the outside here just randomly pushed through a bit too aggressive in my personal view. I picked up a penalty for that. I think it was about 2-second penalty, which I was a little bit frustrated about because I felt that was a bit too aggressive by I think it was Thomas in the Ferrari. But he was obviously trying to get through because he obviously had a poor qualifying as well. His pace should have been a lot higher up. He obviously wanted to make progress, so I can understand why he did it, but I think it was a little bit too aggressive. So I had to go fairly defensive straight away from the start. You can see really close battling going on. I've got a very fast car behind me, and I'm not close enough to the car in front to really pick up a slipstream, so I was really worried at this stage. So I tried to overdrive and drove wide through that corner and picked up another 9/10 of a second penalty. Luckily it wasn't anything higher. I only picked up a 9/10, so now I've got nearly 3 seconds worth of penalties, just under 3 seconds worth of penalties, and I just really wanted to get close to that Mitsubishi to pick up his slipstream, because I knew with the Ford behind me, I was really surprised at how weak this Mercedes is down the straight. It surprised me when I was racing TRL Lightning, the way I was in a slipstream and he was still just pulling away. Like I couldn't close in on him, and then every lap it was the same. I was getting close to his slipstream Lightnings, and then he was just pulling away. It was so frustrating. But then you can see now I've not really got close enough to that Mitsubishi slipstream. There's a big gap there, and watch the Ford just literally breeze past me because it's just so fast down the straight. He's on the outside, I'm going down the left, but he's pretty much got the move made before he's even got into the braking zone. So I kind of just let him take that and just tried to go on the inside and then try and hang it around the outside, but it was never going to work. So I just tucked in behind him and just tried to stop the Ferrari from managing to get past me. I really didn't want that Ferrari making a move and, you know, getting down the inside anyway. So you can see me going really defensive on that inside, blocking that inside off. Because one thing I didn't want was this Ferrari behind me, in front of me, because I know that his tyres will start wearing and they'll start fading off very early. I've driven that car at this track, and I know what that car is like when it comes to tyre wear. Once you get past like lap 5, you can see a little bit of contact between the Corvette and the Ferrari behind me as we drive back on board, right back on board now with myself, trying to get some consistency. I think this is what some of the issue was with this race, was I just couldn't get into a rhythm. There was so close battling going on. Obviously a lot of fast drivers. You know, RC Racer in P9, that guy is a very fast driver. I've seen him like be up there with probably like the likes of Lightning on certain tracks in certain classes of car. But this is just such a close battle that I think it was hard to really build a rhythm up, because I was always trying to look behind me. I was worried about either the Corvette or the Ferrari making a move somewhere. You can see how close that Ferrari is behind me now, and I was really worried that he was going to be able to make a move on me somewhere, you know, getting that slipstream and try and move. You can see him very close to my rear of my car now, and he's gaining. I'm having to go down the left hand side to go defensive, and he's on the right hand side now. He's going to try and make a move on the outside. Unfortunately, he doesn't make that move, and he's not able to get round the outside there because I've managed to hold the left hand side. So held him off again. So Thomas obviously trying his hardest to get past. He really wants to, you know, make progress in this race. He wants to get past, and he wants to better his position and get ahead. But obviously I don't want him to get past because I just knew what the tyre wear was like on that car, and I know after lap 5 he's going to start struggling. So now I need to try and build some rhythm up to get close to the lap time has been really poor. I mean, 1:33.4, that is nearly 2 seconds off what I should be doing at this stage. In my practice run with TRR Lightning, I think I was doing 31.7s and 9s in the races. It was pretty much 31.7s, 9s and low 32s, and this is what was really confusing. I couldn't work out if it was the force feedback that was causing it or just so much traffic and having to concentrate on cars behind you and having to go defensive and trying to pick up slipstreams off cars in front. You can see, unfortunately, again, I'm not in that slipstream. You can see 1.2 seconds ahead, so I can't pick up that slipstream. And then Thomas is obviously Thomas is going to pick that slipstream up on my car. And again, it's so frustrating because the Mercedes, I feel like they've BOP'd it a little bit too much in terms of its straight line speed. It is a nice car to drive. I just feel like it needs a little bit more power now, because even the Corvette was way faster down the straights, and I would think that the Corvette and the Mercedes should be BOP'd fairly close in terms of their straight line speed and handling, because the Corvette handles nice as well. You can see again Thomas getting a run down the outside, nearly gets around the outside on the straight but outbrakes himself. I hold the inside and again managed to hold him off on that corner and kept my position. And this is just battling going on. This is a lot of, you know, aggressive driving, battling, and it's just losing speed. We're not really getting any good lap times in while we're doing it. And I didn't want to give this position up though to Thomas, because I know that he's going to start struggling in this race. So I was just trying to push as hard as I can while driving defensive, and I ran a little bit wide onto the curb on that corner, lost a bit of time. The Corvette now is behind me, another fast car. He's going to have a little look on the outside. I brake really deep into that corner, just about hold it on the track as Thomas is battling away with that Corvette. I managed to stay in front of all these, and also while trying to defend against these, I'm actually starting to catch up with the Mitsubishi in front of me. So I've just got to try my hardest to defend and keep pace with the cars in front. So it's a hard position to be in, but you can see I'm closing in on picking up that slipstream. It is very close. As you can see, another Ferrari at the back of the grid, obviously struggling with the tyre wear also. As you can see, the Mitsubishi's just outside that slipstream. I think I'm not close enough to pick it up at that point. You can see Let's Drive on board there, yeah, just close to picking it up, but you can see how he's pulling away, obviously, because I'm not close enough and he's picking up the slipstream with the car in front of him. And then I've got that Ferrari closing in on me now, but because I've got that little bit of help from a very slight slipstream, you can see I'm out of the slipstream pretty much now, but because I got it earlier on, he wasn't able to make a move into this corner because of the slipstream. That I did have that little bit of a help from the early part of the straight where I picked up a bit of a slipstream, and now I needed to start concentrating and trying to put some okay laps in, because I've got a bit of a cushion to Thomas behind. He's not going to be able to make a move into this corner, but I wasn't sure if he'd throw one up the inside, but you can see he's not close enough. So trying to just keep it smooth and trying to make some progress in terms of gaining on these cars in front. I can see visually that even though I'm in P11, you know, P6 and 4 are only a few, they're in touch. I can see that, like, it would only be a case of, you know, making a few good moves or a few mistakes from someone. I could be in P5 or 6 or 7 in this race. It's such a close race going on. You can see the cars are really closely spread. You can see up front, obviously, Matty there pulling away. He drove a brilliant race, a very fast race. I think even with like the pace I had when I was racing TRR Lightning, he would have been about 8 seconds ahead by the end of the race, or 10 seconds ahead. There would have been no touching him in this race. He was really in a league of his own. Very fast pace he was showing in this race, as you can see. Trying to pick that slipstream. Got myself a little bit closer this time, within half a second. And again, this is going to help me out down the straight now. But even picking up the slipstream, you can see he's obviously picking up a slipstream off of the Ford in front of him. But I'm not really gaining that much. I'm gaining very small amounts because this Mercedes is not the best car for overall speed, but it does handle very, nice. I will give it that. It's stable. It has a bit of an understeery feel to it. As you can see, I go a bit deep into that corner. I'm trying to drive aggressive over the curb. Nearly lost it. Just about held onto the car there and kept the power down. But now Thomas is going to be getting very close. Thomas getting very close on this straight now. He's under 3/10 to me, but again, he's not close enough to make a move. I think at this point he's just in fuel save mode and wanted to save more fuel. As I had a little look up the inside there, but he braked very early, and I tried to have a little look, but there was no way of making that, so I kind of backed out of that. It would have been a silly move to try and do there, and just trying to stay with his slipstream. I needed to try and stay with that slipstream, so it helps me out down the straight, gives me the boost that I need to defend against a Ferrari behind me. Although I had a feeling that Thomas at this stage was in a fuel saving mode. He didn't seem to be attacking as much. I think he realised his tyres were starting to fade. They were probably starting to wear a bit now, and he was obviously trying to look after his tyres and obviously save fuel at the same time. As you can see how close this battle is going on. We've got 4 cars here now. I'm trying to pick up the slipstream of our RC racer, who's a very fast racer on this game, and we've got Callum there just ahead in the Ford, really able to make moves because of the speed of that Ford down the straight. He was really able to get in the slipstream of cars and get past them, and that's the advantage of being in a car that can overtake. It does make me kind of wish that because I do like that Mustang. It's really nice to drive. It's just every time I've driven it on the tracks I like it, but I'm not too sure on the group. I've never driven the Group 4 car. I don't really know how that handles. I'm guessing it's a fairly competitive car, maybe not overly competitive, but I've seen it reasonably high up on a few tracks. I'm not too sure what it's like. As you can see again, going through this corner, starting to lose the rear. As you can just notice there that Thomas decided to pit on lap 6. Now that is a very brave move, because at the end of lap 6 he's then got to do 9 laps on his last stint, which is going to be in that Ferrari. Pretty much not the nicest experience I can imagine for the last 3 or 4 laps. I tried, even on the 8 lap stint that I had to do in a previous FIA race, the last 2 laps were an absolute nightmare, and you had to really be careful. So I was trying to push on this lap, and I think I was trying to overdrive the car, because I decided I was going to pit at the end of this lap 7 because I didn't want to lose too much time to Thomas, and I seen him go in the pits with a lot more fuel than me. He went in the pits with, I think, about 8% more fuel, so he, in them last few laps, was obviously doing a lot of fuel saving. You can see I got a massive oversteer moment, lost even more time there, where I'm trying to drive really hard to try and get a good in lap before I pit. But with doing that, I've ended up losing more time, which is a bit frustrating, but again, it's my fault. Bit poor driving on my behalf, and again, I wasn't really hooking this up, and this is what's led me to when I created my American account and realised the force feedback settings were totally wrong. I'm really looking forward to trying this car out and seeing what it's like in race conditions with the force feedback I've got now. As we go in the pits, I've got a little bit more fuel than the Porsche in front of me. RC Racer saved a lot of fuel. You can see they've been doing a lot of fuel saving. He's on 44, so that's going to gain him quite a few seconds in the pits, because the pits, it takes so long to fuel the car up now on these FIA races. You can see how long I'm in the pits. I underfueled a bit because I wanted to try and jump that Porsche. Unfortunately, he obviously underfueled a bit also, and I wasn't able to jump him because he come out in front of me. However, I was a little bit happy at how close that Porsche was to me, because I thought if I can get a run on that, I might be able to get past. But have a little look on the right hand side, and you're going to see Thomas gets past me, and another car actually jumped me, I think, in the pits by pitting early as well there, possibly. As we'll have a little look on the replay camera now, and you can see I've got the other Ferrari behind me. Wasn't again too worried about that Ferrari being behind me, because I know what the Ferrari is going to be like towards the last few laps. But it was Thomas, who's quite far up ahead there. You can see he managed to gain maybe a second or so. If I wouldn't have made them few errors, it would have been very close to coming out side by side with him. And if I could have jumped him, I feel like what I should have done really was just on the fuel massively, try and get out ahead of Thomas, because being stuck behind Thomas now is going to be costly, because for the last 3 or 4 laps he's going to be struggling with how early he's pitting. Fortunately for myself, pitting a lap earlier than I should, I had to do it either way, 8 or 7 split, either doing the first split to 8 laps or second split 7 laps, etc. I decided to do the longest stint on my last stint. It doesn't make much of a difference with the Mercedes because it is nice on the tyres. All that will happen is I'll get a little bit extra understeer on that final lap, and possibly a bit of oversteer when I'm putting the power down. But if I'm cautious and I drive it well, it it shouldn't really affect me too much. So it wasn't bothering me about the fact that I had to do 8 laps. I was more worried about that Ferrari having to do the 9 laps and how much he was going to start dropping speed towards the end. As you can see, still very close racing as I go really deep into that corner. Lost a bit of time, but just about managed to hook the corner up somehow and got it back on track. So only lost about 3 or 4 attempts, but I lost the slipstream of the car in front, which was a bit frustrating. And also the Corvette manages to get me in the pits. He was behind me, so he's managed to get the jump on me again. The Corvette, a very good car at saving fuel. I've experienced that at Bathurst. When you do the fuel saving run in it, you can get through the race without pitting. It's a great car in the Group 3 cars for its fuel saving ability, because it doesn't lose too much speed when you shift midpoint on it. I think its peak rev is pretty much midway on its rev limiter, so that's why he's managed to jump me. And now I've got a train of cars there in front of me, and M. Thomas is obviously going to start suffering soon. And this is very close. You can see, even though I'm in P13, I can visually see P5, I think it is there. You can see P10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and I can see P5 up ahead of me. So it is a bit frustrating, because I feel like if I would have just hooked my qualifying up, I could have come away and been in a much better position in this race. But this is why these FIA races are so important, to get your qualifying sorted, because now I'm stuck behind the train of cars, and I've also got to do a bit of fuel saving, because I tried to jump the Porsche in the pit that didn't work. And you can see visually, look how close this is between so many cars. You can see all in on the same straight now on lap 9, and I think that's P5 up ahead. You can see, let's have a little look, see if we can work this out. We've got P10 there is Callum in the Ford, and then we've got P9, 8, 7, 6, yeah, P5 is up there. So it just shows you how close this race has been, and it shows you the difference between fine margins. It's pretty much not changed in terms of distance from the rolling start. So if I would have just hooked that qualifying lap up a bit better, I would have been looking at a much better result. But I didn't. I obviously made the error. I'm a bit frustrated that I got hit on my qualifying lap. I think it was actually one of my subscribers that hit me. He did apologise after the race, but there was no hard feelings. People make mistakes, and I did message him back to say don't worry about it. Obviously, you know, people make mistakes. They outbreak themselves trying to push for their qualifying lap, and it's just unfortunate it happens. And hopefully next race I can try and get a better qualifying lap in. Although Brown's hatching the Group 4 Mercedes, and that could be a bit of a worry, but I'll do my best. It's a track I really like, so hopefully I can squeeze every bit of performance out of the Group 4 car. I'm really going to try and go at these, you know, a little bit more aggressive now, because I've got to start getting better results. I feel like I've got to start doing better. This has so far not been a very good season for me, I have to say. I feel like I've not driven my best. I feel like I've not took advantage of chances. As you can see, getting very close to that Corvette now on the straight, and this is going to show you the difference between the Mercedes and the Corvette in terms of straight line speed, because I'm right in his slipstream. He's not right up the car in front of him. He's got a bit of a gap, but he's getting closer to that car, but I'm not getting any closer to him. So it really does show you that the slipstream on that Corvette, the power of it is a little bit higher than Mercedes. But the Porsche obviously suffering a little bit more, and the Porsche is actually a car that I knew I might have a chance of overtaking, because obviously it's not the fastest car in the straight. So I managed to get this slipstream here, and I pretty much had it straight away in my mind that I'm going to go for a move. So I get a slipstream, pull out last minute, go into the braking zone, throw it up the inside, managed to stop it before going out wide, but unfortunately he gets a cut back and gets past me again. So I went for it. It was worth a try. I did it cleanly, but he did really good driving in the fact that he held it on the outside and then got the undercut. But now I'm putting more pressure on that Porsche. I really wanted to get past, because I could see the train develop in front of me. I could see that there's chances for some good points if stuff goes wrong. And I just really wanted to do my best in terms of trying to get past this Porsche, because if I can get past the Porsche, I can then try and get past the Corvette in front of him. And then if there's any sort of crashes up ahead with other cars, because looking how close this battling is, there was a high chance someone was going to pick up a massive penalty, or there was going to be a crash. So there was still chances of picking up some okay points. You know, it's not been a great race for me. I haven't driven my best, but I'm still in with a shout at this stage. You know, might be down in, I think, P12 or something like that. But I've got so many cars up ahead of me that things could change at any opportunity. So I wanted to keep pushing. I wanted to get past this Porsche. I managed to pick up his slipstream here. Decided to do my fake move where I go to the right hand side, then cut back down the left hand side. He went to go down the right hand side to cover me off a bit, but opened that door up for me nicely. But it really worked that time and got down the inside. So the fake worked, and I put myself up a position, and then the Corvette in front of me has a moment, so I'm up into P12. You can see that Thomas is struggling in that Ferrari up ahead. He's having massive issues. I think he's picked up penalties where people are just obviously trying to get past him and trying to find the way to get past the slower car, because he's suffering now. You can visually see, look how close he is now. He's really suffering with them tyres. I have a massive moment where I'm trying to get on the power. I wanted to get as close to these up ahead. I knew that I had to get close and get past that Ferrari to have any chance in this race. So trying to stay nice and tight to the apex here, and then getting on the power as early as I can, pushing out wide, then getting on the brakes nice and early, trying to get tight in on that apex. You can see my previous, I managed to get down to a 32.0, but I was really disappointed with my lap times in this race, because they were 3-4 tenths off what they should be, and some laps into the 33s, obviously where I've been battling and not been able to get any consistency. So not that happy with how the race had gone at this point, and I was really a bit disappointed, because I feel like I might upload the race I did with TRL Lightning just to show the difference in terms of whether it was the force feedback that was causing it, or whether it was just some of my driving, because some of it was definitely the week. I just wasn't driving to my best, and because the race I did with TRL Lightning, I was really on it and I was really hooking up the car. I felt like I was in the rhythm and I was driving really nicely, and it's just it was so strange getting into this race when the force feedback felt different, and it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel the way it did in the race I did with Lightning. But hopefully with the new settings that I've got, I can start getting a bit more consistency in the race. It definitely feels like I should be able to from what I've driven so far. It feels like you can feel the limit of the car a lot easier now. As you can see, Thomas picking up probably a lot of penalties where people have been bashing him and getting past, and he's dropped right down now. And I think he, again, might have made the mistake of pitting too early in this race, because he had really good speed. I just feel like he should have tried to hang it out to the end of lap 7, especially with the fuel saving he had done, because he would have then jumped some more cars, he would have jumped myself, and then he would have had a bit fresher tyres to push for these few laps where they've started to now fade off. As you can see, Callum starting to also struggle in that Mustang, and that Corvette putting him under a lot of pressure, but that Mustang is going to be really hard to overtake, and this is a problem for me. I've got okay speed, I'm hanging on to these, I'm starting to get closer, but to get past them you need to have straight line speed, and this Merc just seems to be suffering compared to the Corvette and the Ford and the Ferrari. They're cars that seem to have that little extra bit of power down the straights. This isn't the weakest car down the straight by any means. We've got the Renaults and the Porsches that are much slower than this, but if you can visually see now how they're just pulling me. Look at the lap delta in the top. I'm in his slipstream, but he's still pulling away, and there's not much I can do about it. So I'm still revving the car up quite high considering at this stage, because I've managed to get the fuel to an okay level. I've got a little bit more fuel than I need, so I can start pushing a little bit harder for the final 2 laps. With them battling up ahead, you can see again Callum's tyres obviously starting to fade a bit now. He's starting to lose the rear a bit, but now Callum's obviously going to have a little look at this corner, but P9 goes defensive there into the corner to cover him off, and again that Corvette's able to kind of cover off that Ford. It's got really good straight line speed, that Corvette, but again Callum's car looks like it's going to lose control as you go through that corner, and I just wanted to keep on it now at this stage and try and push and see if I can get into the top 10, because it's not been a good race, but I can see there's still opportunity to maybe pick up P8 or a P9 or a P10. I think P8's a little bit too far ahead now with all the battling that was going on when Thomas was holding a few cars up with his tyre wear issues. As you can see, we still got P6 in visual touch, so that's how close this race has been, all the way up to lap 14. And it just shows you the competition in these FIA races and the importance of qualifying. It's just in these top split races, qualifying is everything. As you can see there, the Mitsubishi has had an issue. He's ghosted at this point, but then he unghosts right on the corner. Not really his fault, more the game's fault. And annoyingly, because the game unghosted him on that corner and he hits me, I get a penalty for it. So I wasn't best pleased at this point. I was a bit annoyed, and I was probably a bit annoyed at the driver in front of me, although it wasn't his fault. It's just because I was just not having the best race. So going into this corner, braked late, and he just braked in a straight line. He didn't turn into it. We'll have a little look at these incidents after the race and analyse some of them, but didn't turn in, and I pick up and now 8 second penalty. That just gave me another 4 second penalty, that incident. So again, dropped down to an 8 seconds worth of penalties in this race through. I think only one of them was probably something that was my own fault, where I ran wide, and the others have been where contact and the ghosting incident happened there. I don't understand how the game can give you a penalty when the car is ghosted, then it unghosts in the middle of the corner, which you shouldn't, you can't expect that. It should keep it ghosted until the corner's finished, and I pick up a penalty. So not too happy at this stage. Was a little bit frustrated, but not much I could do, and I just wanted to just keep on it now, and I've got to try and get rid of that 8 seconds worth of penalties to go over the finish line. So a little bit of a disappointing end to this race, because you can see there I had a chance to I would have been close to getting in the top 10. Obviously the penalties on the car, and a bit of a disaster the race, to be brutally honest. I feel like I should have done better. I feel like I didn't drive my best. I feel like some of it was my own driving, some of it was probably the battling that was going on and trying to defend, and some of it was just game issues like the penalty system, again not really doing any favours to me. But sometimes they're going to give you an advantage, sometimes they're going to affect you, and it affected me in this one as I try and get rid of the penalty, but even then I couldn't get rid of it all. So got it down to 4 seconds. So I go over the line, and it's dropped with the penalty, it's dropped me down to P14. So a little bit frustrated at that, and a little bit disappointed, as I felt like I deserved at least the position I was in, P11. I felt like I should have really, I think if I would have hooked my qualifying up, I could have been perhaps around P6 or P5, 6, 7, something like that. I had the potential of doing it, but didn't hook it up, and unfortunately with that penalty as well at the end, just dropped me right down. And I think M. Thomas as well finished quite far back, as obviously the tyre wear really got to his car and he was really struggling. Anyway, let's go back and have a little look at some of these penalties and some of the incidents in that race, and have a little quick look at them. So first up we have the start with M. Thomas. Let's have a little look now. So he's quite far back at this point, but he decides to try and hang it around the outside, and at this point I didn't even know he was there. And obviously I've got to turn in for that corner. I couldn't turn any far left because I wouldn't make the corner, I'd pick up a penalty. I think it was a little bit optimistic to try and make that move, but obviously he wanted to make progress in the race. This was the move that I tried to make up on the inside and stop it on the apex, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't really get the exit speed by doing it, but it was nearly worked out, but unfortunately didn't make it work. But this was where I made the fake, moved over to the left hand side, got the car up on the inside, braked early enough to give myself a tight line into apex because I didn't want to hit him. I wanted to stay nice and tight because I knew he was on the outside, and give him the respect on the outside. So obviously if he's on my outside I know that he's going to be there, so I need to brake early. Now this is the instant at the end where his car's ghosting. Obviously he's on the apex of the corner, and then his car just unghosts and hits me there, which I pick up a penalty for, which is so frustrating because I thought, from my view, he's ghosting and he's stopped on the apex of the corner. I've got to carry on and accelerate out, or that Porsche is going to get past me, which he nearly does. So a little bit frustrating. And then after that, I obviously go to the right hand side. Porsche goes to have a little look down that left. He brakes late, but he doesn't really turn in the apex. You can see he leaves the apex quite open and doesn't really turn in that early. But maybe he was just braking that hard to try and stop the car. He wasn't able to get the car into the apex, but I would have liked to have had a bit more space on the right hand side because I had to turn in at some point. But unfortunately again there I picked up 4 seconds worth of penalty, so not really his fault. I don't really hold it against him. I was a bit annoyed at the end of the race, but after watching it I don't think much he could have done there. Even on where the ghost situation happened, I don't think it was more his fault. I think that's a game. The game shouldn't unghost the car in that situation. It should keep it ghosted until you're on the straight and accelerating, because I'm going down the outside there and then he's just unghosted and obviously got on the power, and it's just kicked to the rear's kicked out and it's hit the front of my car, and I've picked up a penalty. So a bit unfortunate at the end of the race. The last lap turned into a bit of a disaster, but let's hope we can have a better second season. I'm going to really try and keep it a little bit more safe, but be aggressive at the same time. I think I need to be a bit more aggressive on certain things in terms of pits. I didn't get the fuel saving very well in that race. I didn't do enough fuel saving for the situation I was in, and I didn't really drive that well. So let's hope season 2 can be better. I can push to be a bit closer to the rank 1. I managed to pick up rank 2 still, even with the poor display this season. So not all is lost, but I'm going to really try and push harder for season 2 and hopefully bring some better results to this channel, because I really need to. So far that season 1 was a bit of a disaster from my point of view, but I'm sure I can get some better results, and I'm sure there'll be chances to get better results. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I hope you did enjoy this race. Although it wasn't the best result, there was still some great racing going on there and some very close battling. And obviously do remember I do upload every single day on GT Sport. I will have an iRacing race going up tomorrow hopefully as well, so check that one out as well. It's really worth a watch, that one. It was really good racing at the start, and there is something that happened in there which is worth a watch as well. And then make sure you hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos also. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll be back very soon.